Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're going to be using this Woodware stamp. This is called Wild Garden. Today what I want to do is just to try out a little bit of like loose watercolouring. I'm going to be using my new watercolour paints. I haven't used these yet with you guys. I've already cut down some of my watercolour cardstock and I'm actually going to be using my mini Misty to begin with. So I'm gonna pop my cardstock into the Misty. So I've cut my cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you can see it's slightly bigger than our stamp. So this is a really beautiful sized stamp. I'm gonna close the door on my Misty. And what I'm going to do just to begin with is I'm going to use some Distress Ink Antique Linen, and I'm just really gently going to just add some ink to this. I'm not looking to get a good stamp here. I literally just kind of want an impression of where those flowers are. I'm going to leave this stamp in my Misty. I know that I've got my cardstock lined up with this line here, and what I'm hoping to do is use this as a guide for where I'm going to be watercolouring to, so I can kind of really get it on top of the flowers, and then I can pop it back into the Misty and stamp that then with some black ink. I've got my watercolour brush here which goes with the set. And I'm also going to have then the sort of cover to my stamp just off to one side, so I really know kind of what like which flowers are where. I'm just going to get my brush wet, and really I just need to decide what kind of colours that I'm going to be going for here. So I'm going to start off with these flowers just down here. So you can see this is the Distress ink, so it does react lovely with water, so you're not really going to see those sort of antique linen marks underneath. I think for this colour I might go in with like a an orange shade here. So I added some water just beforehand just to sort of wetten it up, and then I've just sort of picked up that colour as well. So I'm going to leave that piece just to dry now. So this might end up looking like a little bit of a hot mess to begin with, but hopefully we can kind of pull it together after. So now I'm going to come up to these sort of flowers up here, but I've just sort of gone in without wetting the paper first of all. So you can see that you can do this kind of either way. So again, I'm just using that faint impression from that antique linen to kind of go in and really kind of roughly just add some colour in there. And I can add a little bit of water if I want to, just loosen that up a little bit. So again, this might look like a hot mess, I don't know, but I'm just kind of having a play, and I think this could be a really great stamp set just to kind of play with. So let's add a few kind of darker pieces, and again, we're just gonna let that dry. So I've got one of those petals there that I just missed, so let's just fill that one in. Okay, so I'm going to avoid coming over here because I just need those pieces to dry. So we have got this kind of almost like a wheat here. So I might come in with kind of a darker colour. Let's just add a little bit of water to that. I can just kind of come in and sort of work my way sort of up it. So again, I'm sort of trying to follow how the flower looks because it's more wheat, so it's sort of coming up like that. That's kind of the look that I've sort of gone for there. So again, I'm just referencing back to this as much as I can. Yeah, so that's sort of just there. So as these are still wet, what I'm going to do is just add some sort of a green shade. So I'm going to go for quite a dark, this is fern green, and I'm just going to kind of add some bits in of colour in here. Again, I'm going to kind of do this in stages. So we've got like a couple here. And then I can kind of go over that stalk piece as well. So let's do this little bit here. Let's get a little bit more colour in there, so we're going to go a little bit more intense. just kind of go to there. So again, if I just use this as a little reference, again, I'm really not looking for anything that's sort of perfect. So we've got this big one there, so I'm just going to leave that bit for a second. What we can do just a few pieces there, and then we do sort of have these stalky pieces come in here. Okay. So what I am going to do is just, I'm going to blast this with my heat gun just to let those dry so we can kind of do these pieces in between. Okay, so I actually think this looks pretty cool just kind of as it is, but I think then adding that detail on top is just going to create quite a fun piece. So now I want to come in to this section here. So we've got these kind of almost like a berry style piece there. So I'm thinking maybe we could go in with kind of a red for those. Again, that's just, and again, we're using colours kind of next to each other that will sort of blend together, sort of just in case. We've got like another piece just there. Again, we'll just add a little bit of sort of depth in there. We can do just a small sort of pressing of water just there. So looking at the image here, so going back to our image, so let me just sort of pull that in rather than just having to hold it. So we do have one of these pieces here, so I need to go back in with the orange. So you can see that's tons more kind of vibrant, but what we can do then is come back into this bit and just add some colour over the top of it. Again, just to sort of give it that little bit of depth in there. So we'd have sort of one here, and that piece there. So the last pieces we've got are these three here. So I think maybe if we just go in for a purple here. So I'm going to go in with kind of a violet. So this is going to be quite strong. So I'm just going to kind of fill in these gaps here, I think. So you can see kind of just how vibrant that is. So let's just do those just there. Then we've got kind of these pieces. So as I said, I'm kind of looking for something that's sort of a little bit more loose. I'm not looking for anything perfect here. Just that kind of impression. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is come back in with that fern green and just sort of fill in some of those areas where I don't have anything. So I'm just going to come in with a very tip of that there, and then you can sort of come in and add some more kind of depth to some areas if that's what we want. So I kind of like how loose this is looking up here. I think that's really, really beautiful. Just sort of create something a little more interesting. So there's our finished piece, and I actually really love how that looks just as it is. Like I said, it's very kind of fluid, which I love. Not anything sort of too defined, but I do want to stamp our image on top of it. I am going to use black. I don't know if this is going to kind of make it or break it a little bit, but we'll see sort of how this comes out. So before we stamp our image, I'm just going to hit this again with my heat gun just to make sure this is completely dry. So I've got my piece back into place. Because my watercolour card is a little bit warped, I've just taken my magnets from my Tonic Studios stamping platform. I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp this up. So I think I've got all the areas there. Just make sure that's in place. And I'm just gonna really press down on this. Okay, so we definitely need to go in with a second layer. Okay, so I've stamped this a few times, so it's not completely solid, but I'm quite happy with how this actually looks. So let's take it out with our Misty. I'm just going to put that to one side. So there we have our stamped image over the top. So I absolutely love how this is looking. So I've just popped this into my splatter box because I do want to add some white splatter on top of this. I just think that would sort of finish it off quite nicely. Then just sort of splat this over it. Yes, I think I probably got more on myself than what I did on my panel. But that is why you need to do it in a splat box rather than just sort of loose on your desk. So I've just let that dry, and now I want to add my sentiment. But what I'm going to be doing is using this Hello dies. So this does come with a shadow die, but we're not going to be using that. We're literally just going to use the inside piece. So I did show you in a previous video where I created a stacked sentiment, and I'm going to be kind of doing the same thing again. So I'm just going to take my T-square ruler because I just want to make sure that I get this really nice and straight. I'm going to kind of work out where I want to kind of position it, and then I'm going to add a little bit of washi tape just to kind of hold this in place. And then I'm going to run this through my die cutter machine. Okay, so let's turn this over and just super carefully. So we want to make sure that we keep all of these pieces. So there we have our card base. And then let's take out that, and then we have our sentiment, which would just make a really beautiful sentiment just kind of in itself. Okay, so what I've also done is actually die cut this 3 times from some black cardstock, and we're going to stack these up, and then we've got our little inside pieces as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is just glue these together. So I'm going to use this Lawn Fawn glue, and I'm going to try just to add some just small dabs of this glue. Okay, there's one layer. So we're just gonna press that on. Okay, so there's one layer on. We're gonna do the same thing again. So when you look at the side of this, you're gonna see that black cardstock, which I think is just gonna look really beautiful then because we've got the black stamping as well. So I'm going to create a mat and layer. I'm going to use some of this oyster card, so I'm going to cut this to be 4" by 5¼ inch. So let's start bringing our card together. So we'll pop a little bit of glue on here. Our first layer, and this oyster colour is going to go really beautifully with that background with our watercolour colour there. So again, we're going to add this flat as well. Then our dimension is going to come from our sentiment. So next we want to add in our sentiment. Okay, so I've added some glue onto the back of our die cut, so we're going to pop this back in. So that'll fit nice and neat into there. Then I'm going to just pop a little bit of glue in these pieces, and again we're going to try to kind of line them up. So I'm just going to grab my pokey tool and really try and push that down. And then we're going to do the same So if I just zoom in closer so you can see, so we just have that kind of hint of the hello there. And if I just try to turn it, you should be able to kind of get that black sort of outline on there. You can see it a lot better sort of in real life. Let's see if we can just, it's almost just creating a shadow in there, but it's something really subtle. You could add then sort of a block sentiment on there if you wanted to, but I just really love how that's come out actually. So to finish this off, I'm going to add some Ivory Seashell Nuvo drops on here, just kind of in and around. Just put one in there. Let's then just do a couple. Just around as well, and that'll just sort of finish this off nicely. So again, it is quite subtle, but when you sort of see it in real life, it is really, really beautiful. I really love how this has come together. So if you do like this card, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.